And welcome back to Stories from the River. This is your host, Charlie Malouf, and I'm here for part 2 of our Word of the Year series for 2026, the word forge. I'm joined by 3 of the 4 members who were on the Forge team. Carl, Hillesland, Lynn Knowles, Corey Edens. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Morning, Charlie.
Good morning, Charlie.
Welcome to Stories from the River, a show in which we go behind the scenes at Broad River Retail.
Okay, so we're talking about the word of the year, the process, and the going into teams. And let me just ask you guys. Maybe I should call on someone specifically because I've not interviewed like 3 or 4 people at once. But when the teams got put together, and it was Anita, Lynn, Corey, and Carl. Lynn, what was the thinking with your team? Like, what did you guys talk about? What did you think?
Well, I think we all came to the first meeting with our own independent words that we felt met the criteria as it was given to us to say, okay. And then we kind of did a reveal and tally to see if we had any commonalities or if one stood out over the rest.
Interesting. Okay, I'm gonna come back to that in just a second. Corey, when you're kind of relatively new to the organization, you're in this kind of word of the year process. What was your reaction? Like, I'm on this team. I don't really know these people that great. I got to come up with the word of the year. What were you thinking?
Right. So yeah, definitely being relatively new to the organization was something new. But I've been in a process like this before, so I kind of had a sense of what we were trying to do and accomplish. But the one thing that was identified very early on in the conversation is that we had a lucky charm in Anita, being that she won the word of the year last year. So I knew that between the 4 of us, there was a level of creativity, but also a level of luck there as well with her as part of the team.
Okay. And then Carl, the team's being pulled together. You're in this process. Your team wasn't selected last year, I don't believe, if you were in the process last year.
Correct.
And so what do you think this year?
Listen, it's a rally, right? So we gotta find a way to win here. There's certainly a competitive nature, I think, to all of us. And but I gotta echo what Corey said. Anita was our lucky charm. She was the winner, a member from the winning team last year, and so now she's 2 years in a row. It's kind of a big deal.
That is a big deal. Okay, so Lynn, you alluded to the fact that you guys all brought your unique words, and then y'all did a reveal to each other. Are you willing to share kind of what each of those individual words were, and then how you guys coalesced into Forge?
Oh, I may have to rely on my teammates for their memory too. I think actually some of the words were ones that other teams submitted. Cultivate, I think, was one word that came up a couple of times. Anybody remember any of the other words aside from cultivate?
I can't remember any of the other words, but I remember the moment that we saw the word forge. There was a moment for all of us. We're like, oh. It was like a knowing. It was like, that's it.
I'm gonna come back to that. I want to give Corey a chance. Do you remember some of the words that didn't make the cutting room floor that you guys kind of brought to ladder you up to Forge?
I thought it was onward, maybe forward was maybe in there, but I think forward onward was one of the words. But I think Carl is right. Once forward was mentioned, we all kind of knew that was the direction that we were going to head.
So how did Forge come out then? Who mentioned it? How did you guys get to that point?
Carl, I think you brought that up, right?
We got a lot of tools and a lot of really smart people in this room, and I think we were all kind of putting words up there. I know Lynn had brought the word forge into the meeting too, and so there was. I don't think there was a collective I think it was a collective. It wasn't just a one person thing, but there was certainly a knowing in the room. And I remember I was sitting in the room, Lynn was across the table, and Lynn, your face just was like it was like, that's it. And then Corey and Anita were on the screen, and we were all like, oh my gosh, let's get to work.
Okay, that's awesome. So you guys got consensus relatively quickly. Didn't start there, but got to consensus, and you thought this is it for us for 2026, the good encore word to pioneer. And then what went into crafting your presentation? Because really, what Manny and I talked about just a little bit ago was that it was really the presentation and the storytelling and the graphics and the word choices. And I'm going to ask you to kind of go through your presentation, but that's what really sealed the deal. Why I think it really resonated, not just intellectually, mentally, but also kind of in soulfully and emotionally and tugged at the heartstrings. What went into the presentation? Walk us through that. How'd y'all get to that point?
I think where we started was, okay, how do we transition from Pioneer to Forge? How do we took sight of what the long-term and short-term vision is for our company and took all of the things that we know it's going to take to get there, which is heat. There's going to be a lot of pressure in the process. Like there's probably going to be some discomfort, but in all of our experience at Broad River Retail for any year, we know that when those conditions are present, we come out on the other side much stronger, much better, and in a form that maybe we didn't even imagine when we started the process.
Well said. Carl or Corey?
We didn't want to explain the word right away. We wanted people to feel it first. And to Lynn's point, we were up against an incredible word. The word pioneer from last year was the storytelling behind that, I think, set the bar. And so we knew we were up against it. Like Will and all of them, like they did an incredible job. And so we were careful with the language. We wanted to avoid anything that felt trendy or inflated. And you're right, the graphics. I mean, that little bit of help from AI on some of the graphics, but Jim Goins had done such a great job with this astronaut. We wanted to bring him into the conversation, and we saw that with the heat, there's extra tools, and we know where we're going, we know where we're growing, and so we just felt like it all started coming together.
All right, okay, and Corey?
And just as I was sharing, very much what Lynn shared about, heat, pressure, but one of the pieces that we all kind of knew that they had to have a purpose, being that we're an intentful organization. So really making sure that this word are really attached to the organization. I think it's more than just a word, right? It's something that kind of unifies and everyone galvanizes around it. But we kind of knew we were onto something there with that. So as Carl shared, we did use a bit of technology there to trying to kind of aid us in kind of optimizing and advancing our presentation.
That's being smart, right? Work smarter, not harder. Use thought partners and use today's tools, to help you present. And so it did galvanize those of us in the room, and it was a democratic approach, and we all felt it. So let's do this, because then I want to ask you like your reactions to the process and why it's important to have a word of the year. But take us through your presentation. I want our audience to kind of hear it as you guys kind of said it, and someone's going to have to kind of read Anita's part. But if you guys would walk us through your presentation, and I want our audience to really clue in on the word choices and the pros that you guys say, and then we'll show some of your slides as you're walking through it that you guys showed in our town hall. We'll go through that kind of came from your presentation.
Well, 2025 was the year of pioneering. It was a year of discovery and of courage. And we proved that when we lead with our heart and with purpose, there's no limit to what Broad River can achieve. But pioneering is only the beginning. The next chapter is about shaping the future on the foundation we've built.
Our horizon is clear, 300 million in 2026. Every part of our business is being reshaped for what's next. We're expanding our reach with new stores, new greenfield markets, building a foundation that's broader and stronger. We're innovating faster, using AI, automation, and smarter systems to turn pressure into progress. We're executing with precision, aligning people, processes, and performance to move all as one. We're elevating every experience from Ashley Lux to Podium to our CX stack and Fresh Service, uniting emotion, technology, and service into one seamless journey. This is how we chase down our $300 million goal and beyond. Stronger, smarter, and more connected than ever. 300 million is the goal, but growth is the test. Growth creates pressure. It challenges our systems, our teamwork, our discipline. But that same pressure reveals strength. This is the year we transform potential into progress, not by doing more, but by becoming more.
So, with that being said, our 2026 word of the year is forge. At Broad River, every moment matters. We don't just withstand pressure, we shape it. To forge means to form something strong through heat, pressure, and purpose. This is how we grow, from pioneers to builders, turning every challenge into strength and every opportunity into craftsmanship. So, with that being said, at Broad River, we are forged for more.
And everything we do this year, how we lead, recognize, and reward, is going to live under one united soundtrack. And it's called the 2026 Foundry Profit Sharing Program. And it's our annual profit sharing plan where shared progress becomes this shared reward. Because at Broad River Retail, we don't just grow, we forge. We're forged for more.
Guys, I've listened to that multiple times, and it's so good. As our friend Davin might say, it is so, so good. I'm just listening to key words. I heard pressure a lot. You guys talked about pressure. You talked about progress. You talked about growth. I love the words builders and craftsmanship. I love this phrase, forged for more. I want to do a little bit of I'm going to ask you something. Lynn, every phrase you had that had pressure, progress, or growth, can you just read those statements again? Pressure, progress, or growth?
We're innovating faster, using AI, automation, and smarter systems to turn pressure into progress.
I love that one. To turn pressure into progress. And then towards the end, you had a few more that had pressure and growth and progress and potential.
300 million is the goal, but growth is the test. Growth creates pressure. It challenges our systems, our teamwork, our discipline. But that same pressure reveals strength. This is the year we transform potential into progress.
That's really good. Okay, now, Corey, you had a couple of phrases there, the builders, the craftsmanship. You also talked about pressure. Just read a couple of your key highlights there.
One of the statements here is to forge means to form something strong through heat, pressure, and purpose. Then right behind that, this is how we grow from pioneers to builders, turning every challenge into strength and every opportunity into craftsmanship.
Yeah, I think the themes there, I'd love to get y'all's take. It's really about like growth is not going to be easy. It's going to challenge us, but we're here for it, and we're going to build it the right way with handcrafted, finely tuned, world class craftsmanship because we're builders. And the encore to pioneering in preparing the soil is to set the foundation. And it's going to, there's growth, but we have potential. We know where we're going. And so we've got the blueprints, but now we're going to start the building process. And there's a lot about heat and strength that's forged out of the pressure, and which ultimately leads to forward progress. That's what I heard, and it galvanizes me and it fires me up. Lynn, what did I not say that you wanted to convey, or do you want to kind of double click on anything that I did say?
I just want to emphasize the concept of forming and forging and like in the heat. Like I love even with the logo, the way that the Broad River logo is in the fire and it's not a perfect logo. You can see that it too is transforming. I go back to, we think we know what January 2027 is going to look like, but I'm pretty sure none of us knew what January 2026 was going to look like when we were in January 2025. but we accomplished so much. And, this company goes very fast. We all work really hard. And we need a word like this that says, okay, yeah, this might get a little bit messy and we're going to ask a lot of you. But at the end, you can stand up and be really proud of what we've done, and be proud of the contributions that we've made to the future of this company.
That's great. All right, I'm gonna call Corey and then Carl. So Corey, anything that you want to kind of double back on or emphasize or re-emphasize?
I think you nailed something there about pioneering, and that's this discovery, curiosity, like just looking above and beyond, trying to explore and create and build new things, but not just to pioneer to get there, but now we're forging. Now we're sitting here, from what we discovered and what we found. Now we want to form and develop something strong here. That's not the stopping point. That's just another stop on the next stop to the next level. So we're
Mhm.
stopping here. We want to build something strong with our craftsmanship, with our many different different services and things that we can offer, not just furnishing life's best memories to individuals, but we also, when we come and we set a stage, we set a precedence for the areas that we kind of set ourselves up in to be more than just that. So this allows us to get into that area in that space. Not only do that, but once we settle here, then we pioneer, move to somewhere else, and we forge again. But again, the next word would be have a different meaning because again, we want to just develop it and grow it as an organization. This kind of allows us to do that.
Yeah, you're just saying that, hey, this is the next stop on a multi-year journey,
Yes.
and to we're in motion. Like
Yes.
Lynn said, it's forming, and we don't know how the clay is going to be ultimately developed, but we're going to form it. And Lynn cited it. We know a few things like Ashley Lux and Podium and Fresh Service, but we're going to form it along the way. So Carl, you really went into on your section. You guys had this great branded program for something that just hit, the profit sharing program in a big way. And you're like, we're going to blow it up even more with the Foundry. So talk about anything else you want to reemphasize, and then how you tied it all together with the Foundry.
Yeah, as far as reemphasize, I want to say this: heat and pressure aren't things that we can opt out of right now in our business. They're part of the work, and we have that phrase that we love using: healthy things grow, and there's a whole bunch of other words behind that. Growing things change. Change brings adversity. Adversity causes us to rely on each other, and relying on each other helps healthy things grow again, right? So growth brings heat, but expectations bring pressure. And at this stage, there's really not a sign that something's wrong. It's a sign that something meaningful is being built. So we really wanted to capture that, right? And what matters is how we respond to that pressure. And heat without care can burn people out, but pressure without alignment can crack things up. And so when that heat is applied with intention and pressure is shared, something stronger takes shape. And no single team carries it alone. Like, retail, we feel it on the floor. Customer service feels it in the moments that matter most. Merchandising feels it in every decision about experience. You talked about Ashley Lux and opening a store in Spokane, and then, right before that in Easley, then Spokane, and then we announced Portland. Like, it's amazing. IT feels it in the systems that have to hold that scale and need to be working, bam, right on the moment. Like, there's so much pressure there, but it takes all of us. And that only works if we carry the heat together. So if pressure becomes something we distribute, not just something we pass down, we can do this. And so it's going to take all of us. And the Foundry, I think, just really synthesizes that, where it's all of our contributed efforts. No one department more important than the other, but it takes all of us pouring into this thing consistently over the year, and just beautiful. Like, we are expecting an incredible year this year because of all of our partners, and I cannot wait to see the end result. But there's gonna be heat and there's gonna be pressure, but it's gonna take all of us.
Yeah, well said by each of you. I can't really add anything. So I want to conclude by asking you, why go through this process for Word of the Year? What's the payoff? Why is it worth it? And what would you encourage other companies who are thinking about like developing a Word of the Year system or process or methodology? What would you say to them? How would you advise them? So why go through it, and what would you advise others? Corey, maybe I'll start with you on this one.
Yeah, I think the time and the effort that's spent in trying to determine like overall word that kind of galvanizes the organization. I think it's so necessary. Again, that's part of like the strategic plan. Just looking at it, and the word intent is used there a couple of times. So again, we're an organization that's filled with intent. We're an organization that's filled with purpose. And I think these are the kind of things, maybe they may seem small to many companies and organizations, but these are the things that kind of get you going in the right direction. Of course, going in the right direction don't mean that you take a couple left and rights and sometimes a few U-turns. But at the same time, this word kind of keeps us being our true north of where we're heading, even when we're getting kind of distracted in some ways. So I think it's most definitely necessary. And I think if I was a leader of another organization, I think I would definitely spend the time in making sure that the organization had like a true north and how they're headed. So the word of the year, I think, is a necessary project that should be embedded within every organization.
Okay. Thanks, Corey. And then Carl, I'll go to you next, and then we'll conclude with Lynn. Why go through it? What's the payoff? And what would you advise other companies?
The value isn't just having a word, from my opinion. I do think it's in the process of choosing it. And going through that work forces leadership teams to get aligned on the reality they're facing, the pressures ahead for us, right? And the behaviors they want to see when things get hard. And we get to choose our hard, right? And so for any company, that shared language becomes a simple, powerful way to turn strategy into everyday decision making. And, you know, the word of the year has movement to it. And so it serves as a North Star for the entire organization, and every action and activity, we can point back to that. So and you look at our core values too, collaboration, it really ties in there. So get a lot more buy-in. I would really consider the process, if you're any other company, to include everyone.
Well said, well said. Okay, Lynn, bring us home. Your thoughts in terms of what you might advise other companies, and also what's the payoff? Why go through it?
Okay, I'm just going to go straight to the fun. Okay. Like what we just said, what we're doing is hard. Maybe this is a little bit of fun that your company can have and a little bit of joy, whether that's the people in your company contributing to what the word should be, or if it's a word that the leadership chooses and pushes out to the company. But then it's all the things that we do around it at Broad River Retail. It might seem simple, but it's like a t-shirt that has a pioneering astronaut on the back of it at a store opening. And everybody's like, oh, and then 3 years from now, you know, you're looking at one that has a Forward Together logo on it. And they're like, oh yeah, I remember that. I guess what I'm saying is it really draws people together, and the word's been used already today, but galvanizes them. Like we might have a different word for merchandising than we do, or in the Vibe Collective than we do in retail performance. But with Forge, we know at Broad River Retail, it's going to take all of us with a forging mindset to make 2026 what we really want it to be.
Well said, each of you. I agree. It does bring joy to like some hard things. I think it does bring out the behaviors that we want to see. And, you know, we know we've selected as we go forward to the year, but then, you know, when you look in the rearview mirror, a year doesn't become just a tick mark on a chart. It's got like it colors in the context. It becomes an artifact or a symbol to say, yeah, that's what that year was all about. Yeah, I remember that. We were forging together. We were forging forward. We were builders. We were going after craftsmanship. We accepted the pressure, and we were forged for more. So guys, thanks so much. Congratulations on being selected and voted as our word of the year. Great job on the presentation. That really wowed us, and it did galvanize us. And super, super proud that Forge is our word of the year. I can't wait to forge forward. I'm fired up. I'm forged for more, and let's go after it 2026. So thanks so much for joining us on this episode of Stories from the River.
Thanks for listening to Stories from the River. To check out more episodes, visit storiesfromtheriver.com. To watch this episode, go to youtube.com/@storiesfromtheriver. Join us again next week, and remember to like, rate, and subscribe to the podcast.